Hey guys, if you haven't already, make sure to check out part 1 of this video where I do the first half of the design and all the composition and layouts. If you have already seen part 1, then enjoy part 2 where I do the color correcting, apply some filters, add some textures, and I finish up all the vector designs. So, with that being said, enjoy part 2. What I did was that I just went to Google and I googled circle marker, or marker circle, highlighter circle, marker arrows, just to get little assets of it. And what I do is that once I download them, I open them in Adobe Illustrator and I'll image trace the ones that I want. So as Illustrator opens up there, I'm just gonna have this one file for all of my vectors. So first thing I'm gonna do is open the first one, image trace, and I normally do black and white logo depending on how simple the image is, and it does a really clean image trace of it. After that, click expand, and I Control-Shift-G or right click and ungroup. I'll delete the white layer, and then just like that I have all these arrows that I can just drag into Photoshop. And I'm going to do the same thing for these hand-drawn circles. That's another thing, you can look up hand-drawn, marker, highlighter, pretty much anything you gotta think a little creatively to try to find these assets. Same process, black and white, expand, ungroup. Let's move this over here, select, same fill color, just so we can get rid of all the white. And we have all those circles there. I'm also gonna do this one. I normally find as much as I can and just image trace them all. I might use them in other projects, or maybe I'm just going to play around with it just to see which one I want the most. This one I'm actually going to copy since it's an oval, and maybe I can do something like that to make it like a circle. Perfect. So now that I have all of those, I'm just going to move this to the side. I'm going to move this to my other monitor, but I'm going to drag them in one by one based on how I want it. So one thing I do want is that I want the Antetokounmpo, or his last name, circled. So I'm going to get that big oval circle one and drag it in. It's going to come in as a smart object. Now there's different ways that you can manipulate the color of this. You can either just drag it in and apply a color overlay. So in the example of the Madden cover, it's pretty much like a gold highlighter, and then they have this like light green too. I'm going to be using those same colors just to keep with the consistency of the cover. So I'm going to go back to the layer, color overlay, and I'm going to do the Madden one's kind of like a goldish, so I'm going to apply that. And then bring down the opacity to, let's see, 60, just so it gives it that kind of highlighter feel. You know, it's a marker there, but you could still kind of see through it. And I'm pretty much going to do that same thing, but for the rest of the arrows and the rest of these assets. One good thing for this also is play around with the layers, have some go over, have some go under. And even if you look at the reference, there's not that many marker and arrow things. So I'm going to keep it a little light, but since it's not an exact replica, it's an inspired design. I think I'm going to add a couple more just to give it a nice little look, and it's a little bit more of an urban look kind of. And let's just add one more arrow. Actually, I'm gonna keep it like that. Okay. Next thing we're gonna do is this typeface right here. So this says Madden, obviously because it's a game, but since we're doing a Giannis edit, I think I'm gonna put either Giannis or maybe Bucks, and then maybe I'll do his name with this font. So to pretty much replicate this font, I downloaded the font from Adobe Fonts called Permanent Marker. There's going to be a link in the description that you can go straight to it if you have the Adobe CC subscription. So that's going to be easy for you guys. So I'm going to put that in here, and I'm going to put Bucks, or maybe I'll put Milwaukee. I'll put the city. Okay, let's try that again. Oh, here, that's why. Okay, I accidentally had this width. So let's put in Milwaukee. And I really like that neon green color from the cover, so I'm literally just going to put in the image of the color of the cover and just eyedrop it exactly, just so I can get the exact color. That nice neon green. I can delete that. So as you see, it's like obviously offset, so we just gotta make sure we put it in like that. Move it around like that. Perfect. So now that we have that, I'm gonna maybe drop down the opacity a little bit, just so you have kind of like that marker look. You see it's a little see-through. I only dropped it 5%. It's at 95% opacity right there. Name that group. I'm gonna keep it like that. Next, I'm gonna put his name here. I'm actually just gonna go on Google, and to make sure I don't mess it up, I'm just gonna copy and paste his name. So as you see here, they have kind of like that, a wide, nice blocky font, and they have it horizontal, well, vertical there, sideways. So copy and paste the name. And the font that I use, that I'm going to use for this, is going to be Wedding Gothic. Get all caps. And I'm going to do Control T, right click, and rotate. I'm going to put that right there. And I want that under that arrow. There you go. Perfect. Maybe I'm gonna, with this font, it is very wide. It is like the a wide font. So I'm actually gonna play around with this, kind of make this one a little bit more symmetrical like that. Let's bring this down to 50 maybe. No, it's too much. 75. I'm gonna have it like that. Perfect. Now, next thing we're gonna do is this big typeface, like the MVP and addition part. I'm just gonna put MVP since Giannis did win the MVP in 2019. I'm gonna put this font back to its normal settings. Make it bigger, and I'm gonna put MVP right there. Now in Photoshop, to get this outline look, to get the outline and the stroke, you're just gonna click the layer, apply an effect, stroke, and there's two ways. You can either put it on well, three ways: outside, inside, and center. I recommend putting it on the inside because then you'll get sharper cuts. So let's do that. And then we're gonna go to the fill here and put that all the way to 0 so you could only see the actual stroke and the outline. Let's put that there, and let's also go in on Google maybe. Let's see if he has any other individual accomplishments. We can also maybe put 4-time NBA All-Star, so let's do that too. Actually, you know what? Let's not put that. Let's actually just put his number. The way they have the 21 here for Madden 21, I'm gonna put 34 for his actual number, but in the same font. So instead of just doing everything all over again, I'm just gonna hold Alt and drag, or click on the layer and press Ctrl J to duplicate, and I'm just gonna put 34. And let's rotate that. Put that there, and let's bring that down to, I'm gonna put that to 20 just to have it like kind of see through there. Let's find a good spot for this. Maybe right here. I'm just gonna have him small. Yeah, I'm gonna place it there, and then I'm just gonna adjust the stroke so it's not too big. Maybe put it at 1. There you go. Perfect. So now that we have that done, there's only a couple of things left. We can maybe make some of these squares black and white, add a court floor. So that is something I downloaded, so let's put that in. Maybe I'm gonna put that here on the edge. So I have this basketball court floor here. Let's just make a mask. In the same way in the original, that's just a little small part of it. I'm gonna do that, and I think I'm just gonna have it like this. Make it small so we could see more of it, so it's zoomed out. Have that there. And I'm also just gonna copy it. Have it here too. Perfect. Now all we're missing is a little bit of the details. So we already have the arrows and the marker parts. We have the typography. We can add in a little saying like that. So let's do that. Let's add Greek Freak, since that's his nickname. Greek. And I'm actually gonna play around with this a little bit. I want to make it 2 separate layers just so I can kind of offset it. Control T, right click, and I'm going to do skew to give it that really italic look. Add that there. Color of the text. Actually, you know what? This one I'm going to make, let's see how it looks with this neon green. I'm going to do it with that neon green instead, just to really add like that, kind of like a shocking contrast. Or, you know what? I'm going to keep it black. I'm going to add as a little text right here. There you go. Let's make that a little bit bigger just so it's a little bit more legible. Right there. And let's also see if there's any other maybe nicknames for Giannis. The Greek Freak. Actually, you know what? Let's do that too. Let's add the word the. Let's make that a little bit, we can make it a little bit bigger. And I think with this, I'll put it under everything. And I'll make this the neon green. Perfect. So now pretty much most of the design is done. Maybe if I want to add a little bit more, for example, here it says Lamar Jackson QB1 Ravens cover athlete. We can maybe do that same thing. Let's see where else we can put it. Here they have it over 2 things, so maybe I could add that right there in white. So let's do, I'm gonna go back just in case because I don't want to mess up his name. And this one I'm gonna keep them all on the same line. Paragraph, left aligned. Let's go back, okay, enter. Shift enter, small forward, Milwaukee Bucks, and then here I think maybe the rest of the things I can maybe put his accomplishments. So MVP, I believe here was 4-time NBA All-Star. Let's go back just to check. 4-time NBA All-Star. One-time NBA All First Team. Let's fix that. All NBA First Team. Let's do NBA Most Improved. Let's not put all of them because it's going to take up a lot. And NBA Most Improved Player. So we're going to make this text white. it small. So as you see here, it's extremely small. Like, it's not even meant to be legible. It's just kind of like a little design addition. So we're gonna make that small there. Control T, right click, skew, bring it up like that. Have that there. So let's see. I'm also gonna add, you see how they have these little text details on the corners? See how it's like Madden 21, and they have the text and everything? I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna have it say Bucks. So I'm gonna copy the MVP and put Bucks. And I'm gonna do the same thing as before. Control T, right click, skew, let's bring it over a little bit. And I'm gonna have it just like that, just enough that you can tell that it says Bucks. But this one I'm gonna make in the neon green. Still with the stroke. There you go. Perfect. Now I think we're done with the composition and everything. So now what we're going to do is add all the kind of little details. For example, what I'm talking about now is adding the X, and then if you really zoom in, you can tell that the background is not just white, it's kind of like an off gray. It looks like kind of like a concrete, grungy texture. And that's the last part we're going to do, or second to last part, until the pretty much the final basic edits. So now what we're going to do is the background. You can look up grunge texture, concrete texture, distress texture on Google. There's a lot of different ones that you can look up. This one in particular, I looked up grunge texture, and this is just one of the ones that came up. And since it's on white, instead of using a blending mode, I may just be able to just bring down the opacity a little bit. Let's bring that down to 15. And in all honesty, I'm good with that. But let's do a search for a couple more. Maybe I could find one that's a little bit better. So I'm gonna go to Google. Let's try concrete texture. Images. And I always go to tools, size, large, just to make sure I get a nice HD image. I'm gonna look for what I want. With a lot of the concrete textures, the reason I say to look up concrete textures is that if you really zoom in, you're gonna notice kind of like that look of concrete. That looks like it's like pretty much a black and white concrete wall with a maximum white filter on top of it. But be careful when you're searching, because you might get a lot of these textures that look like this. That's like cracks. This is a good texture right here. So like I said before, I don't want the cracks. So I'm gonna use this. This one's watermarked a little bit. So let's see. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to use that. This looks like a good one to use also. Also with textures, it's also really good to just kind of use multiple of them. The more you use, the more effect you're gonna get that you want. Textures are great because with the different blending modes and opacities and stuff like that, you can get a really nice background with just having a large composition of a ton of layers. And so for this one in particular, I'm going to go through the blending modes, see if maybe one of them, I like this lighter color, looks good. See which one looks the best. Pin light looks good also. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go with lighter color. Let's see. So now that I'm hiding it and it doesn't really look like it does much of an effect. So let's do it the way we did the other one, just bring down the opacity. Let's bring that down to 10, 15. Good thing with textures is that it's just going to add a little bit. It's just a little pop, a little tight, little piece of, see, like it looks super white, and then when you show it up, it'll get a little bit darker, a little bit grayer, which is kind of a look I'm going for. And then lastly, I'm gonna add this little X. So I'm gonna use the same font, same stuff, Wedding Gothic. But instead I'm gonna have it kind of like right there. Right there. I'm gonna put in the same gold. But on this one I'm gonna apply the texture on it. So if you see here, it has kind of like that distressed texture also. So we're just going to, I'm gonna use the original texture that I used. Put it over it, hold Alt, clip it to the mask under, and now I'm gonna play with the blending modes for that. Just to see which one is the best one. I like this divide. And then use the divide, bring down the opacity a little bit. Perfect. And that's it. So now it's pretty much just personal decision on whether I want to make certain things black and white. I think I might go that route. Let's just see how that. So for that, all I'm gonna do is put black and white layer, maximum black, and I'm gonna clip it to each individual one. Mind you, after you do that, you will have to, if you do decide to go through the black and white route and you follow the walkthrough, you may have to change some of the values on the camera raw filter, because you see how here his lips look extremely lighter than his skin. We're gonna try to fix that up, but it's all just personal preference. So click layer, alt clip it, maximum black. And I think this one I'm gonna put under. Let's see, actually, let's move this one. Let's see. I think for this, I'm just going to maybe clip it. Control I to invert. There. With the black and white, most of them look good except for maybe, for sure, this one and maybe this one a little bit. So let's go in there. Now if you want it in color, then just still stick around, because there's one more thing that I do to pretty much make all the color correcting very seamless. So just stick around, even though I'm fixing up the black and white right now. But if you're doing the black and white, to kind of fix this kind of harsh look here, I'm just gonna kind of bring down shadows, bring up shadows and highlights just so it's not so black. And then for this one, we're gonna play around with this, make it a little bit brighter. Okay, see, that looks a little bit better. One thing I forgot, I'm gonna make this black and white also. Let's see how that looks. Maximum black. Perfect. Now, the final step. Go all the way in the top. And I always like to use one of these two things. Sometimes I use both. I'll always use color lookup or a gradient map. Or sometimes I use both. So first let's do color lookup. Put in the top layer. And I literally just go through all of them to see which one I like the most. See, this is a really good one for saturation. This 3-strip look, I can maybe... It's always going to be very extreme because it's at 100%. For example, this is in a very extreme effect. But what I do is that I go for what I want and then I'll bring it down a little bit. So it's obviously going to be a more dramatized version of what I want. This is a really good one for kind of like a washed out look, so I like this one too. So this is drop blues. So far I like drop blues and 3-strip. This is a nice one too, fall colors if you want a little bit warmer. This is a good one for some, maybe we can use this as an overlay with one of the blending modes. That looks good. Like, I'm gonna use that for lighter color. Let's maybe bring that down to 20. Just add a little bit of detail. And I'm still gonna add another color lookup. See how that 3-strip look. Drop blues. I'm gonna do drop blues and I'm gonna put this to 20%. Perfect. Now this is gonna do the same thing for example, if let's say we hide all the black and white layers that we just added. You're gonna see that it's pretty much evening out the colors for the player, for the skin colors and the colors of the whole image. It's pretty much making it all on kind of one spectrum, so it looks a little bit better, a little bit cleaner and more uniform. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is here, create a gradient map. I normally do just black and white. Overlay 5%. Let's try 10%. There you go. And that's just gonna give it kind of like a little bit more HD feel, HD look. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the design. You can play around with the color lookup, with different aspects of the coloring, with the gradient map. You can play with the saturation of the camera raw filter depending on the look you want. You could play around with the black and white. There's a lot of things that you can do to edit the picture. Up. But there you have it. We emulated pretty much the Madden 21 cover. That same type of design style of saturated picture, a lot of text, marker assets, that X with some of the textures, some abstract looks with the court, with the field, whatever you want, the neon colors. And yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with this walkthrough. I'm James C. Carnib. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Behance at James C. Carnib, or on Instagram as the Creative Guy James. You can also go to my website, jamesccarnib.com, look at all the other designs I've done, or just, like and share on YouTube. So, thank you guys.